As our business began to grow, we began to expand internationally. And at one point, I had the opportunity to go over to Russia. How many of you have ever been to Russia before? A few of you. How many have ever been to Russia in February? Anybody? That is a cold experience. So I flew over to Moscow, and I landed on a Friday morning. I got into Moscow about 10 a.m. Our flight was about 30 minutes early. And I got off the plane, and I went through customs, and I was coming out, and as I was coming out, I was going to look for the guy holding the little white sign with my name on it, Ty Bennett. He was my driver. He was going to take me into the city to the meetings that we had. And as you walk out of the customs area there's a gate, and there's all these guys holding these little white signs with people's names on them. And as I'm looking through all of these signs, some are in Russian, some are in English, I don't see my name anywhere. And I keep looking, and I don't see my name anywhere. And I figured, you know what, we got in a little bit early, no big deal. I kind of just put my stuff off to the side, and I thought I'd wait. He's probably running a little bit late. And about 45 minutes later, everybody has come through the customs. They found their guy with the little white sign, and they've all left. And it's pretty much just me sitting in the Moscow terminal. I don't speak Russian. I have no contact information for this guy. I have no idea how to get a hold of him. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a good start to this trip. And so I'm wandering around the Moscow terminal, and literally 2 hours after I landed, I'm on the other side of the terminal. I'm walking past a coffee shop, and I see this guy drinking coffee, and I don't think anything of it. And then out of the corner of my eye, I notice there's something on the table, and I look on the table, and there's a little white sign that says Ty Bennett. I don't know, I guess sometimes you need a good cup of coffee. You know, he was a little busy. And so he takes me into Moscow, and on Friday afternoon, I've got meetings from 1 until about 6 o'clock. I get a little bit of rest. On Saturday morning, I've got meetings in Moscow from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. I go directly from those meetings to the train station. I take a 17-hour train ride down south to a little city called Saratov. I get there on Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, I meet with a few people. Monday morning, I wake up and I've got meetings from 8 a.m. to 1 in Saratov, and then I go straight back to that train station. I get on a 17-hour train ride back to Moscow. I get in on Tuesday morning, I go straight to the airport and catch a 12-hour flight back to the United States. So this was a crazy trip. So I don't know if you've ever been on a Russian train before, so let me paint the picture for you. I'm in Saratov, I'm getting on this train, and you walk into the train car, and the train car is probably about this wide. And there's a bunk here, a bunk here, a bunk here, and a bunk here. And so I took the top left bunk, and there's a Russian family, a father, a mother, and a 4-year-old little boy, give or take, that are on the other 3 bunks. And they don't speak any English, and I don't speak any Russian. We have no way of communicating. And as I'm getting on this train, I am already uncomfortable. I haven't even got on, and I'm uncomfortable. I'm dreading the 17 hours in front of me. I'm dreading the plane ride back to the United States. And you know, the only saving grace I had, luckily for me, I'm a Mac guy. You know, a PC guy would have a hard time with this, but if you're ever in the middle of Russia with nothing to do, there's an app for that. And I had with me my iPod, I had my iPhone, I had a MacBook computer, and I'm thinking, I've got music and movies, we're going to get through this, this is going to be okay. But there's not an outlet on this train. And so for the first hour, I'm listening to music on my iPod, and, you know, not too bad a deal, and then my iPod battery dies. So I pull out my iPhone, and I'm listening to a book on tape, and, you know, it's all going well, and then my iPhone battery dies. And so I pull out my MacBook, and I start watching a movie. And I get through that movie, and then I start doing a few things for another hour, and 3 hours after that, my computer's dead. And so 5 hours into this 17-hour train ride, I've got no iPhone, I've got no iPod, I've got no MacBook, I can't communicate with the people below me, I'm laying on what feels like a big piece of wood. It's about 150 degrees in this train car, and if you go outside the train car, it's like a negative 150 degrees. It's so uncomfortable, and I'm laying there going, what am I doing? How in the world did I even end up here? I'm on the other side of the world, in a country I don't know, with people I don't know, with a language I can't speak. And at that moment, probably more than any other time, I really started to question my dream. I was laying there on that top left bunk, and flooding into my mind came all of these people who told me I couldn't do it. All the people who said, you're too young to get this done. What are you doing? you can't, you're never going to achieve your dream, just give up on it. Have you guys ever had that? Have you had people tell you you're not old enough, young enough, smart enough, sophisticated enough, or that you can't? If you haven't, just wait. You will. And I was laying there in what was, for me, one of the loneliest, one of the most questioning times that I've ever had in my life. Until I pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. And as we wrap this up, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to get out a piece of paper and a pen. And at the top of that piece of paper, underlined in big capital letters, I wrote, when you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do whatever it takes. And I knew I needed to change my thought process. I was thinking all of these negative things. I knew I needed to change what I was thinking. And so I wrote down one of my favorite quotes by David Schwartz. He said, "A successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks that others throw at him." And then I wrote down what Les Brown told me. He said, "Other people's opinions of you do not need to become your reality." And then with the right mindset, for the next hour, on that piece of paper, I recommitted to my goals. And I wrote down everything that I was committed to, not the things that I was interested in, the things that I was fully committed to, the things that no matter what, I was going to do whatever it took to achieve. And as I filled out that piece of paper, I turned it over and I kept writing. And that process was one of the most powerful, defining moments of my life. And I want you to take a few seconds here. And on your piece of paper, I want you to write down what you're committed to. Not what you're interested in. Not what's convenient, but what you're really willing to stretch for. What you're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve. When you think about your commitment, I want you to think Russian train committed.